thoughts. Been having a lot of thoughts, many of it because at one point I had a thought that I was trying to recall, and then I started thinking about thoughts, thinking about why it's hard to recall a thought, thinking about how a thought is, what is the kind of, what is the form of a thought, and I have had a lot of thoughts in my life, and then there's a lot of moments where you try to think of you say, well, what thoughts have you had? And then that's when you kind of blank out and you don't know how to answer anymore, because then you're trying to describe to somebody else something that kind of slips from your mind as soon as you start trying to think about it. So it's like saying, I know a lot of stuff, and then so you're on stage and you put it on a platform in front of some critic who says, okay, well, tell us what you know. And so then you start trying to tell this complete stranger, well, what are all the things you know? Billions of things, but what's going to come to mind? You be able to think of very little. At that, probably something seemingly trivial and stupid. Say, well, I know that the Earth is round. I know that the Earth rotates on its axis, and although it appears that the Sun moves around the Earth, it's actually the other way around. What do you know? I know my name is such and such. I know that 2 + 2 = 4. You come up with this trivial stuff, but we know trillions of things, and millions of them actually have some kind of a value, but that if you try to put it into words for other people, they would just giggle at you for even doing that. So we know a lot of stuff, but then when we try to think, what do we know? It seems like not much. You sort of blank out. At that point is when we blank out and we shrug our shoulders and say, well, I guess I don't really know much. And that seems to be the main question, is to be able to try to... But then when you get into just thinking and not trying to tell anybody anything, not even trying to tell yourself anything, but just thinking your thoughts, you start to realize that you have a whole lot of thoughts about everything. I think about things, about life, about people, about how we live our lives, or how people think. I think a whole lot about how people think and why they act the way they do, and how to get through to people, or if it's possible, if it were possible, how to get through people, and why are we the way we are? All these thoughts constantly going through your mind, and very often. Okay, so what I was realizing this week is that very often thoughts aren't even specified as thoughts, as here's a thought about this and that. There's just this feeling, this general brain movement, as if it's just as if your brain is just sort of a jellyfish thing reaching out, trying to absorb, and not being a specific thing of here's a hand and a fingers reaching out to pick up this precise item, but more of a general reaching out of a blob of a jellyfish sort of thing, and reaching out in all directions and grabbing things whole, as if thoughts are holographic, rather than just looking through there's a whole difference between a holographic image and just looking through a straw. You look through a straw, and you're looking for one specific little speck of something, and so you take a straw or like a microscope. You're looking through the straw at that one little item, and you see exactly what you're intending to see, and that's one way to look at things. But there's another way there's a holographic way where you can see things from 3 dimensions, from all angles. You can turn it all around and see the whole thing as a whole, and not just as one part. So you can look at somebody's eye and say, oh, well, I'm looking at the eye and I'm seeing the eye. Or you can look at the whole person and see the eye is just one of many parts of that person that are all part of the unity of that person. That's a very different thing from looking just at one specific item. And I'm feeling that that's how it is with thoughts. There was this thought I was trying to remember last week that was more of a holographic thought than it was a specific thought, and that's why I hadn't even made it specific in my mind. It hadn't even been put into words, because it was more of a general. It wasn't just one thought. I could pretty much think of one aspect of the thought. It's just like in a song, you might have the melody, but the melody isn't the whole song. You've also got the harmony and the rhythm going on, and the different instrumentation and the singing voices and the words. So those are all parts of the holographic image of the holographic existence of that song, and just remembering the melody is only a specific part of, and not the entire song. And I had this thought floating by my head last week that even if I could have put it into specific words of, oh, I was thinking about this, that the actual thought was more like a whole holographic thing that encompassed more than just that specific thought. That really made it very difficult to try to recall what it had been at all, and yet it made it kind of more interesting to realize that thoughts are not words, and thoughts are not necessarily the specific thought, that somehow a thought can be a brain movement of a whole structure, like a cloud structure that can be viewed from different perspectives and encompasses more than just one singular thought, one singular concept. That was interesting, and that has gotten me in the last few days thinking and about thoughts. And when I'm able to do that, there are a lot of thoughts that I'm able to think about. But then when you try to say, well, what are the thoughts you've been thinking? Then you just blank out. And I don't, it's a dumb, like the deer in the headlights phenomenon. You just, I don't know. I've done that. I've stood up on stage and had the spotlight shining on me, and I blank out at whatever the lines I was supposed to remember. I'm not very good at memorizing lines anyhow, and I'm not very good at being a student to do it. But I sort of learn the lines, and I think, well, I know the lines, and I can say them to myself. But then you get on stage, and the spotlight shines on you, and I forget what I was supposed to say. Totally forget, totally blank out, totally panic. And that's how it is with thoughts. I have thoughts all day long. But then you turn on a microphone, it's like shining a spotlight. Turn on a microphone and say what your thoughts were. I don't remember. Sorry, I can't remember any of the thoughts. I guess I should stop and go get something to eat is the sort of response. And that might be my response at this moment until I do actually remember something specific to think of. There's so many varieties. It's about variety. It's about thinking about, okay, here it is. Here you go. Here's one example. I'm looking at these houses and I'm thinking about, well, do I like the colors that this house is painted in? Suppose I try to imagine the different colors of the house and different colors of the shutters. And this doesn't sound too astounding when you put it into words, but when you're thinking about it, and you're thinking about your ability to think of being in different places in different times, different situations. And I think that most often in our lives, this is what our lives are about. Our lives are about the situations that we're in. And then what happens with movies is they make the movies about the plot of the relationships between the characters. So here's a man and here's a woman, and they do this and they do that, and then in the end they say, oh, I love you too, and they kiss. And that's supposed to be the highlight of the whole movie. Is the whole point of the movie was these people have to get together and declare their love for each other and kiss each other, and that's accomplished. That's the accomplishment of the story. And it seems to me that that's not really the way it really is in life. And the way it really is in life is that the story, the plot itself, is actually the setting. It's like you're in this house and you're doing in this place and doing this stuff. That really is the plot of your life. And we make the plot, we say that that's all setting and that's all scenery, and the real plot of life is the man and the woman getting together and kissing and saying I love you and will you marry me. That is the plot, and we view that, and that's how we view our lives, that the plot of our life is, well, Angelina Jolie and Brad Pitt are going to say I marry you, and that's the highlight of the movie. That's the climax of our lives, is will you marry me? Yes, I will. Oh, I love you so much. I love you too. Kiss, kiss. Roll credits. We view our lives that way, and we view the movies that we watch that way, and the real plot, I think, of our lives is the actual experience and the place, the setting, what we call the settings of our lives, are actually the real plot, what it's really about. And I think it's in our dreams that we recognize that. In our dreams, we recognize that the setting of the dreams, the circumstances, the physical, the sensation of physically being in these circumstances where things are a certain way and you have a desire to change them or to get out of those circumstances. And you wake up with this sort of urgent desire to either get out of the circumstances or change them in some way. That's what our lives are really about. It's the circumstances that what your life is really about is what apartment are you in? Are you able to live in a house? Are you able to live in a neighborhood where you feel like a human being, or are you stuck in some warehouse of a factory skyscraper apartment complex where you feel that your humanity is, that you're just another robot? And I used to have dreams like that when I was a kid, probably from watching certain movies on television where these people would be in this apartment complex in a skyscraper. That probably I suppose from seeing scenes like that in the movies and not liking them and not thinking I don't want to have to be in a place like that when I grow up. And I would have some dreams where I'd be in this apartment complex and not know who I am. I'm just in this high-rise apartments, and it seems depersonalized. And I would wake up from those dreams not liking that dream, and it was being very glad that I had woken up and that it was just a dream and I could go back to school and be myself again. And I feel that this is how we lose this consciousness of our need to navigate through the different scenes in our lives. In our dreams, we do that. We're aware that we're navigating through these different scenes, and we're aware that we're stuck in a scene we don't want to be in, and we're trying to get out of it. But in our daily life, we sort of give up. Resignation. I wake up, and here I am. I'm not in a room that I really want to be in. This is like waking up in another ongoing dream of a place I don't really want. It's not that bad, but it's not that great either. It's not what I consider my life. I look here, and this is not what I would have wanted my life to be. Just as when I'm in a dream, I'm in a situation, and I'm thinking this is not a situation I want to be in. But I seem to be stuck in it for the moment, but I'm going to try to get out of it. Then I wake up, and I'm in a similar situation, and I have given up the effort to get out of it. And I think this is what dreams remind us of. The dreams remind us of this motivation, this desire to actually actively try to get out of the circumstances we find ourselves in. This is part of the important information that dreams have for us that we lose on waking up, because on waking up we relinquish this sense of control, that it's up to me, that I have the ability to decide, do I want to be in this situation or not? And if I don't, then I better go do everything I can to get myself out of it. I think that's part of what dreams are about. And yet we're so frustrated in our daily life about the difficulty. I mean, just looking for a fucking apartment to move to, and it's all bullshit. They're all bullshit, and they're all confined. It's like they're all confining. I've been in dreams where I'm trying to get out of a confined situation, and I'll like either go through a wall or go through into a closet where I'm trying to squeeze out the window, and then when I get out the window, I just find myself in another room, and I try to get out of the window that one. I've had that kind of dream where I keep trying to get out, and I'm deliberately, you call it lucid dreaming, I'm deliberately trying to squeeze myself out to get free, and no matter how many times I do this, I just end up in another confined space. Until eventually I do wake up, and I breathe a sigh of relief, and I say, oh, thank goodness I'm out of that, finally. And yet I'm not able to, yeah, so, and you wake up in your regular life, and it's really difficult to get out of these situations, and so you're going to get this better apartment, and you get in the better apartment, and it's just as confined. You feel just as confined in some other apartment complex that seemed pretty nice when it was advertised, and there's better amount of space and convenience for the amount of rent money, but it's like you're in this dream where you're still confined. And you want to get out of this situation, and that's why there's this longing to get out into a rural area, a place where I'm away from apartment complexes and skyscrapers, where I don't have to worry about falling hundreds of feet to the ground in a way that's going to kill me and be disturbing, where I can have my feet on the ground, I can be surrounded by grass and trees and the sky and the clouds and birds and water flowing. Life is like that. It's like a dream then the question is, where do you want to get? If you could get out of that dream, where would you want to get to?